The night was uneventful. Just another Wednesday. The hum of the city below my apartment in New York was as constant as the thoughts rattling around in my brain. I had been mindlessly watching reruns on TV, nursing a cold beer and trying to tune out the dull ache of yet another monotonous day. My job at the data firm had been particularly soul-crushing recently, and all I wanted was a little peace and quiet. Then it happened. Knock, knock. It was soft, almost too soft, like a courtesy knock. At first, I thought I had imagined it. Who would be knocking on my door at this hour? I glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. My neighbors weren't exactly the type to visit unannounced. Knock, knock. There it was again. I felt a strange chill crawl up my spine. I grabbed the remote, turned off the TV, and headed for the door. My hand hesitated over the knob. Something about this felt off, like the air was charged with anticipation. Brushing aside my unease, I opened the door. Standing there were two women, except they were not women. Not exactly. The first one, taller than any human I'd ever seen, had skin the color of deep violet, with shimmering, almost iridescent undertones. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and glowing faintly like two stars, one golden, one silver. She wore an elegant robe of some strange fabric that seemed to shift and change in texture with every subtle movement she made. Atop her head, two sharp, crown-like horns curved backward, gleaming in the low light of the hallway. Next to her was a slightly shorter figure, with pale teal skin that looked smooth and metallic. Her hair, or what should have been hair, was a series of long, flowing silver tendrils, waving gently, as if stirred by an invisible breeze. Her eyes, too, glowed faintly, but with a soft, sky-blue hue. I blinked, certain I was either dreaming or hallucinating. "Hello, Alan Ward," the taller one spoke, her voice melodic and commanding. "I am Zina. This is Lila. We bring greetings and gifts from the Zolaran Empire." I stood frozen, gripping the door handle for support. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Were they holograms? Actors in elaborate costumes? Some kind of government experiment? None of it made sense. "How? Do you know my name?" I finally managed to ask, my voice sounding far shakier than I'd have liked. "We have known you for some time," Zina replied smoothly, as if that explained everything. Her eyes scanned me, studying my reaction. "You have been chosen." "Chosen? Chosen for what?" I stammered, still trying to comprehend the surreal scene unfolding in my doorway. "To be our husband," Lila spoke up for the first time, her voice soft and ethereal. It was almost soothing, like a gentle breeze carrying a distant melody. "By the laws of the Zolaran Empire, you are now bound to us in matrimony." My heart skipped a beat, and I stumbled back a step, nearly slamming the door in their faces. "Excuse me, what?" No, there's been a mistake. I didn't sign up for whatever this is. I don't even know what you are." Zina tilted her head slightly, as if confused by my reaction. "There is no mistake, Alan. The process has been carried out according to our laws. You are compatible with us. Therefore, the bond must be fulfilled." "Bond? Marriage? What are you talking about?" I said, my voice rising in panic. "I'm not compatible with anyone, certainly not two aliens who just showed up at my door." Lila stepped forward, her silver tendrils shimmering as she moved. "The Zolaran Empire has carefully selected you based on criteria that ensure a perfect union. Your DNA aligns with ours in ways that allow for successful integration. It is a great honor." "Honor?" I felt my breath quicken, my mind struggling to keep up. "I don't even know you. I didn't agree to this. I'm not just going to marry two random aliens who show up at my door and dash." Before I could finish my sentence, Zina reached into her robe and pulled out a small, metallic object. It was a ring strange and intricate, with glowing alien symbols etched into its surface. She held it up to me with a regal grace, as if presenting a sacred artifact. "This is the binding ring," Zina said, her voice full of authority. "Once placed on your finger, it will solidify our union. It is the key to the gift we offer." I stared at the ring, a cold knot of fear forming in my stomach. There was no way I was letting her put that thing on me. "No," I said, taking another step back. "I'm not putting that on. I don't want to be a part of this, whatever this is. Just leave me alone." But Zina remained calm, her glowing eyes never leaving mine. "Alan Ward, you must understand. There is no undoing what has been set in motion. You have been chosen. We have come here to be your wives. If you do not accept, the consequences are irreversible." "What does that even mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. Lila stepped forward again, her expression soft, almost pleading. "Alan, if you refuse, we will be returned to the Zolaran Empire. There, we will be dissolved. Our essence repurposed. This is why we are here. You are our only chance." I stared at them, my mind reeling. They weren't just offering me some bizarre cosmic marriage, they were pleading for their lives. I don't. I struggled for words, overwhelmed by the weight of the situation. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be a part of any of this. "We understand this is difficult for you," Zina said, her tone softening just a fraction. "But we have no choice. You are our husband now. Enjoy the gift." With that, she took my hand before I could pull away, and slid the ring onto my finger. A pulse of energy shot through me the moment the ring touched my skin. My vision blurred, the air around me shimmered, and for a second, I thought I was going to pass out. But then, something even stranger happened. The ring began to glow, and I felt connected. Suddenly, I understood things I had no business understanding. I could sense Zina and Lila in ways that went beyond physical presence. I could feel their emotions, their fear, their desperation. The ring tightened on my finger, sealing itself in place, and I gasped, trying to catch my breath. What did you do to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We have initiated the bond," Zina replied. "You are now part of the Zolaran Union. It will take time to adjust, but you will come to understand." My mind raced as I looked down at the ring, its glow pulsing faintly. Everything in my life had changed in an instant. I was no longer just Alan Ward, ordinary guy from New York. I was something else, something tied to these two alien women standing in my living room. And I had no idea what that meant for my future. The morning after Zina and Lila's arrival, I awoke to the soft sound of voices. It was almost like a whisper inside my head, a murmur just on the edge of hearing. For a moment, I thought it was a remnant of a strange dream, except it wasn't. The weight of the glowing ring on my finger told me that last night had been all too real. I groaned and sat up, the events of the previous night rushing back in a wave. Two alien women had appeared at my door, declared themselves my wives, and forced an alien ring onto my finger that somehow linked us. My heart raced again just thinking about it. This wasn't some hallucination or elaborate prank. It was real. I threw on a t-shirt and jeans, rubbing my face as I made my way into the living room. There they were, as if they had always been part of my world, standing near the window, talking quietly to each other in a language I still couldn't comprehend. But even as I watched them, I felt that strange connection stirring inside me. Their voices, though foreign, made sense somewhere deep within my mind. They turned to face me, Zina with her calm, regal air, and Lila with her soft, kind expression. "Good morning, Alan," Zina said, as if this was all perfectly normal. She had changed into a sleek, form-fitting suit that looked more practical than the elegant robe from last night. Lila, too, had swapped her flowing attire for something more grounded, though it still shimmered with a strange, otherworldly quality. I stared at them for a moment, my mind still trying to process everything. Morning, I replied, rubbing my temples. Is this actually happening? It is, Zina confirmed, her tone serious but not unkind. We understand that you are disoriented by the events of last night. Disoriented? I repeated with a laugh, though it was more out of frustration. That's putting it lightly. You show up out of nowhere, tell me I'm married to both of you, and then put some kind of alien ring on me. I think disoriented doesn't even begin to cover it. Lela stepped forward, her silver tendrils waving gently in the air. We did not intend to cause you distress. We know this is difficult for you, Alan. Our customs must seem strange to a human. Strange? Yeah, that's one word for it, I muttered, still feeling the lingering weight of the ring on my finger. It didn't hurt, but it was there, always there, like a constant reminder that my life was no longer my own. Let's get something straight, I said, finally managing to put my thoughts into words. Why me? Out of all the people on this planet, why did you choose me? Zina's eyes flickered with a moment of hesitation before she spoke. We did not choose you, in the sense that you understand choice. You were selected by an ancient Zolaran algorithm that analyzes countless factors. Your genetic makeup, psychological profile, and compatibility with Zolaran biology made you the ideal candidate. There is no one else on Earth who matches these criteria as perfectly as you. I stared at her, trying to wrap my head around it. You mean some kind of alien algorithm just decided I was the perfect guy to marry two aliens? Based on what, exactly? My DNA? Lela nodded. Your DNA is uniquely adaptable. It allows for a merging of Zolaran and human physiology. This is a rare trait, and it is why we were sent here to form a bond with you, for the survival of our people. Survival? I echoed, my curiosity piqued despite myself. What do you mean, survival? Zina's expression darkened slightly. The Zolaran Empire has become unstable. There are factions within it that seek to eliminate those who do not conform to the new order. Lela and I are from noble houses that were targeted for eradication. To avoid this fate, we fled under the condition that we form a diplomatic marriage on another world. And that's where I come in? I asked, feeling a strange weight in my chest. You are our only chance, Lela said softly. If we had not bonded with you, we would have been captured and dissolved. I remembered that word from the night before. Dissolved. It made my skin crawl, imagining what it could mean. What does dissolve mean? You said it last night too. Zina exchanged a glance with Lela before answering. Dissolution is a process used by the Zolaran Council to extract and repurpose life energy. Those who are dissolved are broken down into their core components. They no longer exist as individuals, but their energy is used to power the Empire's systems. A cold shiver ran down my spine. You mean they kill you and turn you into fuel? In essence, yes, Lela said, her voice tinged with sadness. It is a fate reserved for those who are deemed unnecessary or disloyal. I sat down heavily on the couch, trying to absorb the enormity of what they were telling me. These two aliens were fugitives from their own empire, running from a fate worse than death. And somehow, I had become their refuge, their lifeline. Why didn't you just tell me all this from the beginning? I asked, my frustration slipping through. Why the whole enjoy the gift thing instead of just explaining the situation? Zina sighed, a rare flicker of vulnerability crossing her face. Zolaran law dictates that once the binding ring is placed, the bond must be accepted or the dissolution process is initiated. We did not have time for a lengthy explanation. Lela sat beside me, her presence calm and soothing. We did not mean to deceive you, Alan. But we were desperate. We had no other choice. I looked down at the ring on my finger, feeling its pulse of energy again. It wasn't just some decorative piece of alien technology. It was a symbol of something much larger, a commitment, a bond, a lifeline. And it had been forced upon me without my consent. So, what happens now? I asked, looking up at them. Am I just stuck with you two forever? What does this mean for me? Xana crossed her arms, her expression once again composed. The bond is permanent, but the choice of how to proceed is still yours. If you accept the bond, you will become part of our world. You will gain access to knowledge, technology, and abilities beyond anything you could have imagined. The Zolaran Empire will be indebted to you. I frowned. And if I don't accept it? Lella's face fell. If you refuse, we will be forced to leave Earth and face the consequences. We would be dissolved. I stood up, running a hand through my hair, pacing the room. This is insane. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't want to be part of some alien marriage or some cosmic politics. I just wanted a normal life. We understand this is overwhelming, Xana said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. But the truth is, you are involved now. Whether you wanted it or not. I stopped pacing, turning to face them. But why me? I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy. How can I be the answer to your problems? Lela smiled, her eyes full of warmth. You are special, Alan. Maybe not in the way you think, but your uniqueness is what brought us to you. You have the power to help us, and in return, we offer you something far greater than what you had before. What? A life on the run? I asked bitterly. A life of purpose, Xana corrected, stepping forward. A life with us. I sighed, feeling the weight of their words sink in. They weren't offering me a simple choice. This was about survival for them, and now, possibly for me. Look, I still don't understand all of this, I said, feeling more defeated than I wanted to admit. But if I don't accept, you die. And I can't live with that. Lela reached out, her hand gently resting on mine. Thank you, Alan. We won't let you down. Xana gave me a nod, her eyes full of respect. You have made the right decision. As I looked between the two of them, I realized there was no turning back now. The deal had been made. My life was no longer just my own. And in that moment, I understood that I was bound not just by a ring, but by something far deeper. Something I was only beginning to comprehend. The days that followed were a whirlwind of confusion and discovery. Every morning, I'd wake up expecting to find the whole thing had been a dream. But every morning, Xana and Lela were still there, as real as the ring on my finger. Life had shifted, tilting on an axis I didn't even know existed, and I had no choice but to go along with it. At first, they tried to integrate themselves quietly into my routine. Xana, ever the disciplined one, took charge of practical matters, like figuring out how Earth technology worked and ensuring that no one in my building noticed two alien women living in my apartment. Lela, on the other hand, was more delicate about things. She spent her time observing, listening, and somehow managing to bring a sense of peace to the otherwise chaotic situation. But despite their attempts to make this arrangement work, things were complicated. They kept mentioning the bond, how it was supposed to bring us closer, connect us in ways beyond comprehension. I didn't fully understand it. All I knew was that the ring pulsed with a faint glow, growing brighter each day, and I could feel something shifting inside me. It wasn't until the fourth day that I noticed the changes. It started small, almost imperceptible. I had gone to bed, exhausted from a day of trying to balance my new reality with my old one. Xana had spent hours explaining the intricacies of Zolaran politics, their home planet, and the current state of affairs that led them to Earth. Lela had been quieter than usual, watching me carefully as if she could sense the questions bubbling beneath the surface. I had fallen asleep quickly, but my dreams had been vivid, strange. I dreamt of stars, of floating through an endless void filled with light and shadow, of voices calling out to me in languages I didn't recognize. And when I woke up, something felt different. My senses were sharper. I could hear the faintest buzz of the electricity in the walls, the distant hum of the city below. I could smell the morning dew on the air, even though my windows were closed. Colors seemed brighter, sharper, as if the world had been turned up to a higher resolution. It was subtle at first, just enough to make me feel uneasy. "Zina," I called out, rubbing my eyes as I walked into the living room. "Something's off. I feel weird." She was seated at the small table by the window, her back straight, looking as regal as ever. Lella sat across from her, but they both turned their attention to me the moment I spoke. Zina's golden eyes scanned me carefully. "The bond is progressing." "What do you mean, progressing?" I asked, a little sharper than I intended. "You never told me this thing was going to change me." Lella's expression softened with concern, and she stood, moving toward me with a grace that made it seem like she was floating. "Alan, we did not withhold this from you. We told you the bond would merge us, but it seems the process is happening faster than we anticipated." "What kind of changes are we talking about?" I asked, my voice laced with anxiety. "Because right now, I feel like I'm seeing the world through some kind of alien lens." Zina rose to her feet, crossing the room with deliberate steps. "You are. Your body is adapting to the Zolaran biology. It is a gradual transformation, one that will ensure compatibility between us." "Transformation?" The word sent a jolt of fear through me. What does that even mean? I didn't agree to become some kind of alien. "We did not anticipate the bond would be this strong, this quickly," Lella explained, her silver tendrils swirling around her face as she spoke. "The ring is designed to accelerate the process once the connection is made. It is unavoidable." I took a step back, feeling the walls of my apartment closing in on me. Unavoidable? So, what my DNA is just changing? I'm turning into one of you? Zina's expression softened slightly, a rare glimpse of empathy crossing her face. "You will not lose yourself, Alan. You will remain who you are. The bond enhances you, it gives you access to abilities, senses, and strengths that are beyond human capabilities. It's why the ring chose you." "Chose me?" I repeated, my voice growing louder with frustration. "I didn't choose any of this. You just showed up, put this thing on me, and now you're telling me I'm turning into something I didn't ask to be." Lella reached out and gently placed her hand on my arm. "Alan, I understand your fear." "I do. This bond was created out of necessity, but it is not a curse. You are still Alan Ward. You will always be. The changes you are experiencing are part of what makes our union possible." I wanted to pull away, to scream, to make sense of what was happening to me. But as soon as Lella's hand touched me, I felt a wave of calm wash over my body. It was as if her presence soothed the chaos in my mind, quieting the storm that had been brewing since they arrived. "I don't want to lose myself," I said quietly, more to myself than to them. "You won't," Zina said firmly, stepping closer. "The bond will make you stronger, more capable. But you will remain who you are." I sat down heavily on the couch, rubbing my temples. "What kind of changes are we talking about, exactly?" Zina glanced at Lella before answering. "You will begin to develop heightened senses. Your ability to perceive things will expand beyond human limitations. Your strength will increase. Your body will adapt to handle environments beyond Earth's atmosphere. These are gifts, Alan." "Gifts?" I echoed, still trying to wrap my head around it. "And what if I don't want them?" "There is no turning back now," Lella said softly. "The ring has begun the process, and it cannot be undone. But know this, you are not alone in this. We are with you. Always." I looked up at them, these two alien women who had become an inseparable part of my life in such a short time. There was no going back. The bond had been made, and the changes were happening whether I liked it or not. But that didn't make it any easier to accept. I didn't ask for this, I whispered, more to myself than to them. Lela sat beside me, her presence warm and calming. No, you didn't. But sometimes, the universe chooses us for reasons we can't understand. You are part of something greater now, Alan. Zina nodded, her eyes filled with something akin to respect. You have the power to shape this bond, to control what it becomes. We are bound, but you are not powerless. I stared at the glowing ring on my finger, feeling its pulse in sync with my heartbeat. This wasn't just a ring. It was a living connection, something that had fused itself to me in ways I was only beginning to understand. And despite my fears, despite my resistance, there was a strange allure to it. The idea of being more than human, of having access to abilities beyond my wildest dreams, it terrified me, but it also intrigued me. What if I can't handle this? I asked quietly, my voice barely audible. Zina's eyes locked onto mine. You can. And we will help you. Lela squeezed my arm gently. You are not alone, Alan. We are here. We will guide you through this. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The fear was still there, but it was tempered by a sense of determination. I didn't fully understand what was happening to me, and I didn't know where this path would lead. But one thing was clear, I was in this now. Whether I wanted it or not, I had been drawn into a world far beyond my own, and there was no turning back. Okay, I said, my voice steadying. What do I need to do? Zina gave a small nod of approval. First, you need to accept what is happening. The bond is a gift, not a burden. The more you resist, the harder it will be. Lela smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. And we will be with you every step of the way. I looked at them both, these two alien women who had become my companions in this strange new reality. There was no escaping it. I was bound to them, and they to me. Whatever the future held, we would face it together. But in the back of my mind, a lingering question remained, a question I was too afraid to ask out loud. What if this bond, this gift, came at a cost I couldn't foresee? As the ring pulsed again, I couldn't help but wonder what I was becoming and whether I would recognize myself when it was all over. The days blurred into weeks. Each passing moment seemed to shift something inside me, not just physically but mentally. My world, once small and predictable, had exploded into something vast and terrifying. I could feel it, the bond growing stronger. My senses, my thoughts, my very perception of reality were shifting, intertwining with Zina and Lela in ways that defied human understanding. Zina called it the fusion, the final stage of the bond. It was a transformation that would lock us together forever, a state where our minds, bodies, and even our souls would be interlinked. The ring was merely the start. It had activated something dormant in me, something that allowed this process to take hold. And as it progressed, the alien part of me, the Zolaran essence, became more dominant. I was becoming something new. But with that power came a growing sense of fear. I could feel myself slipping. It was subtle at first, little things like reacting too quickly to sounds or seeing flashes of light that weren't there. Then came the more disturbing shifts. I could hear their thoughts sometimes, feel their emotions as if they were my own. It was overwhelming, like trying to live inside two other minds while holding on to my own. That night, it all came to a head. I had barely slept, my mind restless and full of dreams I couldn't control. Zina and Lela's presence in my head had become a constant hum, a low vibration that never faded, even when they weren't physically near. I could feel their every movement, their every breath. It was maddening. I stood in front of the mirror in my bathroom, staring at my reflection. I didn't look different, at least not in any obvious way. But I felt different. My skin seemed to glow faintly under the dim light, my eyes sharp and bright, almost too clear. There was a strength in my body that hadn't been there before, a coiled energy beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. Alan? Lila's voice echoed softly from the doorway. I hadn't even heard her come in, but I wasn't surprised. I could feel her presence, like a soft whisper in the back of my mind. I turned to face her, and there she stood, her silver tendrils floating gently around her, her pale teal skin glowing faintly in the dark room. You couldn't sleep, she said, not as a question but a statement. She already knew. I'm losing myself, Lila, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't tell where I end and you two begin. She stepped closer, her eyes full of concern. It's the bond. It's nearing completion. You are feeling the final stages of the transformation. I'm scared, I admitted, my hands gripping the edge of the sink. I don't know who I am anymore. I can't tell if my thoughts are my own. Lila's hand reached out, resting gently on my arm. Her touch was warm, comforting. You're still Alan. You will always be Alan. The bond doesn't erase who you are, it enhances you. But I don't feel like myself, I said, my voice shaking. I feel like someone else. Like something else. Change is difficult, Lila said softly, her silver blue eyes gazing into mine. But it is necessary. You are evolving, Alan. Becoming something greater than you were. Something powerful. I didn't ask for power, I muttered, pulling away from her and pacing the small room. I just wanted my life back. I didn't ask to be part of some cosmic marriage or turn into this. Lila sighed, a sadness in her eyes. I know you didn't. But you're here now. The bond is almost complete, and once it is, you will be stronger than ever before. We will be stronger together. And what if I don't want it to be complete? I asked, stopping to face her. What if I want out? She hesitated for a moment, then looked away. That is no longer possible. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you mean? The bond is irreversible, Alan, she said quietly. Once the ring was placed, the process began. There's no way to stop it now. If you try to resist, it will only make things harder for you. I felt my chest tighten, the weight of her words sinking in. So, that's it? I'm just stuck like this forever? No, came a firm voice from behind us. Zina stepped into the room, her tall, regal figure filling the doorway. Her golden eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me shiver. You are not stuck, Alan. You are evolving. This is not a curse, it is a gift. You have the chance to become something extraordinary. I shook my head, frustration boiling over. I didn't want this. You just showed up and forced it on me. I never had a choice. Zina crossed the room in 2 long strides, her presence commanding. You did have a choice, Alan. You chose to save us. You chose to accept the bond when you could have let us die. Her words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the impossible situation I had found myself in. I had saved them, yes, but at what cost? And now, Zina continued, her voice softer but no less firm, you must choose again. What do you mean? I asked, confused. The final stage of the bond is upon us, she explained. When the fusion is complete, we will be connected in ways that transcend your understanding. You will become more than human, more than Zolaran. You will be something new, something powerful. But it requires your acceptance. I frowned. What if I don't accept? Zina's eyes darkened slightly. If you refuse the fusion, the bond will unravel. The ring will fail. And without it, we will die. Her words cut through me like a knife. I had suspected there was a deeper cost to this, but hearing it laid out so plainly felt like a punch to the gut. You'll die? Yes, Lila said softly. The bond is our only connection to life. Without it, we cannot survive on Earth. It sustains us, keeps us hidden from the Zolaran Empire. And if I accept? Xina stepped closer, her gaze locking onto mine. If you accept, we will survive. We will be linked, yes, but you will gain powers beyond your imagination. Strength, knowledge, abilities that will make you more than you ever were. I stared at her, the weight of her words settling deep into my bones. They were offering me power, real, unimaginable power, but at the cost of my autonomy. I would never be truly alone again. I would be bound to them for eternity. But if I didn't accept, they would die. And I couldn't live with that. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the ring on my finger, its pulse matching my own heartbeat. This was my final choice. I don't want to lose myself, I said quietly, looking between Xina and Lela. I don't want to become something else. You won't, Lela whispered, her eyes full of warmth. You will always be Alan. We will never take that from you. Xina nodded, her expression serious but full of respect. The choice is yours, Alan. But remember, power is not a loss. It is an evolution. I stood there for a long moment, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The point of no return. Finally, I met their eyes and spoke the words that would seal my fate. I accept. The moment the words left my mouth, the ring on my finger flared with a brilliant light. A surge of energy shot through me, so powerful I thought it might tear me apart. But instead of pain, I felt something else, something alive. It was like the universe itself had opened up inside me, filling me with light and power. Xina and Lela reached out, their hands gripping mine, and I felt the bond snap into place, locking us together in a way that was impossible to describe. I could feel them, truly feel them inside me, their thoughts, their emotions, their very essence. And they could feel me. We were one. The light faded, and I stood there, breathing heavily, my body humming with new energy. The transformation was complete. I was no longer just Alan Ward, a simple human from Earth. I was something more. I looked at Xina and Lela, both of them smiling, their eyes full of warmth and gratitude. We are one now, Xina said, her voice soft but strong. Yes, Lela added, her smile radiant. Together, we are unstoppable. I took a deep breath, feeling the power coursing through me, and for the first time since this whole ordeal had begun, I felt at peace. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't alone anymore. And I never would be again.